Okay, Jake, as your financial advisor, I've grown a little concerned about the money that you're spending on books every month.
Really? Why is that?
Well, according to my numbers, since you've joined BookTube, your book buying habits have increased exponentially every month.
Okay, well, what do you think I should do about that?
What I'm proposing to you as your financial advisor is to put you on a book buying budget.
I'm sorry, it sounded like you were speaking gibberish there for a moment. Can you repeat that? I didn't quite catch it.
Book buying budget.
Are you speaking a foreign language or something? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, you know the first word, book.
Okay, I'm familiar with books.
The second word, buying.
I'm familiar with the concept of buying, yes.
The third word, budget.
Budget, yes, it's good to be smart with money.
Okay, put it all together. Book buying budget.
Okay, I have no idea what the hell you're saying now.
Oh, God.
Are you totally convinced that this is the best option? I mean, do I really need to stop buying less books?
Maybe if you showed me examples of these books, maybe you could try to justify your purchase of these books.
Oh, I've got them all right here. Yep, I've got these. I've got these. What do you think?
You brought all those books to the bank?
Of course, I bring books everywhere I go. I mean, look at these books. I mean, I think it's a pretty good investment if I do say so myself.
I will admit, those are some pretty impressive books. I think for your book buying budget, we're going to be very lenient. Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So today's video is going to be my June... Son of a bitch. So today's video is going to be my July book haul. All of the books that I bought in the month of July. I'm definitely considering putting myself on a book buying ban for the month of August because I bought a lot of books in July and just, I need a budget because this is just got a little bit out of control. And I used to buy a lot of books, but I used to buy a lot of used books. So I could come home one day and I bought like 20 books, but there's a possibility that I only spent $20 on those 20 books. Now if I buy even like 10 books, that's a lot, that's a lot more money than I'm used to spending on books. For today's video, I have 16, which is a number. And most of these books that I bought were new, so they were not cheap, and I'm going to go over all of them. So enough of the preamble, let's go ahead and jump right into it. Let's go ahead and start out with a book that I actually got for free because I had a coupon at my used bookstore that I like to go to, and that would be Fireborn by Rosaria Munda. A lot of people have been talking about this book, and I'm very excited to try it out. I'm going to try to squeeze it in to August, and hopefully I can get to it. If not, I'll put it on the back burner, and I'll read it in September. But I'm very excited for it. And even though I've heard a lot of people talk about this book, I'm still not 100% sure what this book is all about. I know it's a young adult book that's supposed to read on a little bit more of a mature level, and I know it has kind of a dual perspective of a young woman and a young man, and I'm pretty sure it has dragons in it. That's probably a safe bet, and I know that a lot of people have read this book and that they love it and that they love the sequel, and I'm very excited to give it a shot. I recently finished one of my all-time favorite fantasy series, Legends of the First Empire by Michael J. Sullivan, and that's sort of his prequel series to this series that I just bought in a box set, and that would be the Rhaenyra Revelations. Got it's technically 6 books, but it's in a 3-book bind-up. And Theft of Swords is the first one, which is like the first 2 books. And then, which one's which? Oh, Rise of Empire, book 2, which is books 3 and 4. And then Heir of Navrin, books 5 and 6, which is book 3. So I bought that at a pretty good price too, because if you look on Amazon, you can either buy them individually for like $18 each, or you can get the box set for like $30. So I was like, all right, I'll do that. But even though I've read the prequel series, The Legend of the First Empire, I know very little about this series, because it takes place, I think, 1,000 or thousands of years after that series. And all I know is that the 2 main characters, Royce and Hadrian, I think those are their names, they're supposed to be a very cool dynamic duo. And that's pretty much all I know. But I love Michael J. Sullivan's writing style. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into this in August. And I have a lot of faith that Michael J. Sullivan has crafted a very wonderful fantasy story. So hopefully it's good. I'm not sure if I will like it quite as much as Legends of the First Empire. I'll just have to wait and see. And last month I read Malice by John Gwynne, and after finishing that I decided to pick up the box set for the entire Faithful and the Fallen series. And so I have the quartet, and it's the 4 books, and I think it's Malice, Valor, Ruin, and Wrath. And I liked Malice. I thought it was pretty good. I gave it 4 stars. I hear a lot of people say, though, that Valor is a superb improvement upon Malice, and that just each book in the series just gets better and better and better. So I'm very excited to continue with this in August. I'm going to try my very best to get to Valor. My TBR for August looks a little wonky because it's a lot. There's definitely books that I am for sure going to read, and then kind of the back half is just like I'm picking shoes. But either way, I'm very excited to continue with the series. And the last fantasy book I decided to pick up, this book has been getting a lot of attention from a lot of booktubers, and that would be Ninth Reign by Jen Williams. I'm a huge fan of Elliot Brooks. I've been watching her channel for a few years now, and just for the past year or so, she's been talking about this book and this series nonstop, and pretty much in any video she'll find a way to bring this series up. And just the way she describes it sounds very weird and just offbeat and unique, and I'm very excited to jump right into it. I'm going to try my best to get to it in August, but like I said, my TBR is a little crazy, but if I can manage it, I want to read it in August. If not, I'll read it in September. A cool book that I picked up by George R.R. Martin is one of his older stories that he told, I think in the 80s. It's called The Skin Trade, and it's this werewolf book. I actually found a comic book version, or a graphic novel. I don't really know the difference, but it's called Skin Trade. And you can see lady on there with a gun, big old werewolf head. It's a pretty good story. Not one of his like all-time best stories, but it's a pretty fun story. And it makes perfect sense that someone would want to turn this into a comic book. So I don't know if I'll get to this anytime soon, but just as a George R.R. Martin collector, it's very fun to have anyway. A book that I've read recently that I absolutely loved and gave 5 stars was Vicious by V.E. Schwab. This book I read in a 24-hour sitting. I flew through it, and it was amazing, very entertaining, very fun book to read. So, of course, like the day after I finished this, I went ahead and picked up the sequel, Vengeful. And I definitely want to get to this in August. I'm making this a priority over some books, and it's just A lot of people say it's not quite as good as Vicious, but some people do like it quite a bit. So either way, I'm extremely excited to give this a shot. I also bought quite a few horror novels, and one of them that I bought is a reread for me. I had it in hardback a while ago, but I much prefer paperbacks. So I finally got a paperback copy of Wonderland by Zoe Stage. She is one of my favorite horror writers now, and she has a new book coming out in August, in the middle of August. So I'll be reading that when it comes out. I pre-ordered it a while ago, and I kind of got the urge to pick this book back up and reread it, and I'm a little bit more than halfway through, and it's just as good the second time. This book is severely underrated. It has a terrible rating on Goodreads, but I love this book, and just the excitement level of her new book coming out made me want to reread this book, and I'm very glad I did, or am. I'm almost done with it. And if anyone wants just a very offbeat, like, kind of literary horror, it starts out kind of like as a modern retelling of The Shining, but then it gets a lot weirder, and probably a lot of people don't like that section. That's where I really loved it, so I didn't really mean for this to become a review for this book, but such a good book, and I love this author, and yeah. Another short horror book that I bought was Nightfall by Daniel Barnett. Now, I've seen Daniel Barnett from a live stream where a few people got together and talked about Dr. Sleep, the movie, and he had some pretty good insight on Stephen King, and of course, I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so Daniel Barnett made a good impression on me, and I wanted to go out and buy his new book. Or not his new book, but this is his first book in a 5-book series. It's very short, so I know I'll be able to get to it, and I've heard so many people in various discords that I'm a part of just rave about this book in the series, so I am extremely excited to get to it. One of my new favorite horror authors now is Stephen Graham Jones, and I recently read one of his more popular books, The Only Good Indians. I loved this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. It was such a unique horror novel and such a unique reading experience that I wanted to kind of, branch out and read his other books. Now, I read one of his other books, Mongrels, and that wasn't necessarily one of my favorites. I still gave it 3 stars and thought it was very interesting. And I recently picked up 2 more of his books to try as well. And one of them is The Least of My Scars, and the other one is The Last Final Girl. Both of these sound very intriguing to me. This one, I think, from what little I know about it, is a very disturbing serial killer novel. It's very short, but apparently it makes a very lasting impression. And just the things that I've heard about this, I've heard very vague recollections about this book. And it's supposed to be extremely disturbing and extremely realistic, to the point where a lot of people just are very freaked out by it. Very interested in this. And then also The Last Final Girl, which, I mean, if anyone is a fan of horror, they'll know the final girl trope. This one sounds interesting, and I actually looked at kind of like the front pages of this, and it looks to me like it's written like it's a screenplay, which is a very interesting choice, and I'll be interested to see how that works. I really love Stephen Graham Jones because he takes all of these horror tropes and all of these horror kind of conventions of the genre and tries his best to flip it on its head. And even though, like I said, I wasn't a huge fan of Mongrels, it's kind of his werewolf novel, he definitely does something different with it. And I've never quite read or have seen a werewolf story quite like that, and I very much enjoyed it for that reason. So I know that even though this is a serial killer novel, and we've seen a ton of serial killer stuff throughout the years, he's going to do something different with this, and I'm intrigued to see what that is. Same thing with The Last Final Girl. And I already told you that I think it's written like a screenplay. So I'm sure he's going to do something weird with that, and I'm going to enjoy that. And this last book is a little different. Well, actually, a lot different than most of these books that I showed you. Most of these books were either fantasy or horror or, some kind of combo of the both. This is a little different. It's by one of my brand new favorite authors that I've read this year, and that would be Maybe in Another Life by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I've quickly fallen in love with how Taylor Jenkins Reid writes characters and writes stories, and just her 3 most popular novels I've read this year, and I've given them all 5 stars. Daisy Jones and the Six is a top 10 book for me of all time, and both The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and Malibu Rising I absolutely love. I've never really heard people talk about her older books though, and this book is a little bit older. Maybe in Another Life. I know the general premise of it. It's all about how one decision in our lives can vastly change the direction we go in. And this story kind of plays with that and tells 2 concurrent storylines where this woman either leaves the bar with her friend or leaves the bar with this new guy she's met. And the 2 storylines kind of differ, and you get to see how her life would have been this way or that way. And I love stories that try to do their best to have 2 concurrent storylines just to see what would happen in both directions. I don't know if anyone else is a fan of Malcolm in the Middle, but one of their best episodes is when either Hal takes the boys bowling or the mom takes the boys bowling, and you get to see what would happen in both instances. I love stories like that. And with Taylor Jenkins Reid, I know she's going to make me laugh. I know she's going to make me feel sad. And I know she's going to have a terrific ending, and she's going to wrap everything up. And it's just going to be, even though there's going to be some probably depressing stuff that happens here, it's going to be overall a feel-good book that I'm going to enjoy. Hopefully I'm not putting too much pressure on myself for enjoying the book, but I just don't see myself not enjoying any of her books. Just the way she writes, I don't know. This is an older book, and it's not as famous as, her 3 newest novels, so we'll see, but either way, I'm very excited. So those are all of the books that I bought in the month of July. Probably too many books, but I'm going to try to put myself on a book buying ban for August. I'm not going to buy any books in the month of August. Now, of course, I'm not counting pre-orders. I've already pre-ordered Stephen King's new book, Billy Summers, and as soon as I get that sucker, I'm going to binge read the crap out of it. Even though I like to tell myself, no, you gotta sit and savor it. Nope, I'm going to binge it to death. And I have also ordered, like I said, Zoe Stage's new book. So I'm not going to count those 2 books because I already paid for them. Other than that, I don't think I should be getting any more books. And I'm going to try my best to not buy any books. We'll see. Anyway, what did you guys think of the books in this video? Have you read any of these books? Are they your favorites? Did you not like them so much? Or are you interested in trying them out as well? Let me know down in the comments below. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching and have a terrific day.